Um, our mission and goal as a conservancy is to preserve, protect, and share both cultural and natural resources within our watershed. And our watershed goes from, starts in the Julian area and goes all the way down to Del Mar. So we are so happy and excited to partner for our second webinar with Living Coast Discovery Center. We had a previous webinar last month about the science of flight, and today we're going to be talking about the world of sharks. I will turn it over in just a second, but one thing I wanted to note for this webinar is a very big thank you to our funder that made this program possible, is the City of Solana Beach. So thank you, City of Solana Beach, for allowing us to partner and share these experiences with you guys. And the last thing I want to touch on before I turn it over is on the very bottom of your screen. I see that some of you are in the chat as well, but we encourage you to chat throughout our webinar today. And then if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A box. So not the chat box, the Q&A box. And that makes it a lot more streamlined as we are going through our presentation today and our experience today. So chat in the chat box and then go ahead and ask your questions in the Q&A box. And we will go through those throughout this experience today. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead, turn it over to Miss Ashley, who is with Living Coast Discovery, and she can tell you a little bit more about what Living Coast does and what we're going to be doing today. So take it away, Ashley.
All right, thank you so much. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our virtual experience to get the chance to learn about the world of sharks. Now, my name is Ashley, and I'm one of the educators here at the Living Coast Discovery Center. We are a small nonprofit zoo and aquarium located down in Chula Vista. One of the things that makes us unique is that we are actually located on the San Diego Bay National Wildlife Refuge. Now, the National Wildlife Refuge is a great place for all plants and animals, as it's a protected area that makes it so that the animals and the plants have a place to thrive. Now, because of this, it does also make it a little difficult for us to participate in events like this. So if at any point the video freezes or it starts getting a little skippy or the sound cuts in and out, just bear with us, be a little patient. It usually fixes itself, so we don't usually have to worry about it too much. But if it becomes an issue and we have to end the video, we will let you know ahead of time. But if it's a little glitchy, just kind of bear with us and try to practice as much patience with us as you possibly can, as being out here on our refuge, we're basically out in the middle of nowhere and we don't really have any service or anything. But it is a great place where all the plants and the animals get to thrive and have that safety aspect, knowing that the land is never going to change. It's not going to be built into a city. So it provides that protection for them and the ability for them to do exactly what nature does and just be itself. Now today, we are going to be focusing in on sharks. So as we talked about earlier, we do have our chat box where we want you to answer our questions. So if I ask you a question like, what's your favorite shark? That would be an answer that you would put in that chat box. As those come in, I can see them pop up on my screen, so I can acknowledge them, like that one that says hammerhead, perfect. But if you have a question for me, so you have a question about sharks, please make sure to use that question and answer box, so that way we can get to them in a timely manner and actually be able to read them. Because of the chat boxes, they do disappear really quickly, so they do get lost. Great, so I'm seeing a couple of different answers in there for what is your favorite sharks. Awesome. Cool, so we are going to be focusing in on sharks today. Sharks are amazing animals and often misunderstood. People often think of them as going to be these mindless eating machines and they're just big and scary, when not all sharks are actually big and scary. There are so many different species of sharks out there. Does anybody know how many species of shark there are? 200's a good guess. It's a little higher than that. Still loving all those answers of different shark species that you love. 500, I think that one said 900, 267, great, awesome. So there are actually, right now, there are listed as over 450 species of sharks. Scientists are still learning about the ocean, so we don't really know exactly, but we know there are at least 450 shark species out there in the ocean right now at this exact time. So we're still learning and checking things out. So as scientists are learning new things out in the ocean, we find out more. So there could be 500 species of shark. and some of them we just haven't experienced yet. Now, sharks are going to vary in size. As you guys can see in front of me here, I do have a shark with us. Let me wipe the condensation off so you guys can hopefully get a chance to see our shark friend. And you can see here, this is one of our animal ambassadors. And this animal ambassador is not very big, right? This is not a super big container that I'm using to show you guys our shark. And that's because not all species of shark are super big. They can range in size from being super small, like the damsel shark, which is only about 16 inches, to things like the megalodon that were enormous. So big, they're bigger than school buses, could eat whales, just giant animals out there. But majority of sharks are actually going to be in that 12-foot and under range, while there are species that are going to be bigger than that, such as great whites and things like that. They can get much bigger. And whale sharks too. So they are going to vary quite a bit. But regardless of how big they are, there are some characteristics that all sharks have. And it's going to be one of the things that makes up their body shape. It's actually the shape of their body itself. It is actually called a fusiform body shape. So if you've ever looked at a shark picture or this one here, you'll see that on the end it's tapered, so it gets a little skinnier, then it's bigger in the middle, and then it's tapered on the end. So it kind of looks like a football shape, right? That is called fusiform. This tapered edges is what allows sharks to be hydrodynamic so that they can swim through the water with the least amount of drag as possible. Now they also have some other characteristics that help them out, such as what covers their entire body. Do you guys know what sharks have all over their entire bodies? No, nobody has any guesses? Scales, there it is. That's exactly it. I thought that was going to be like an instant response. So sharks are covered in scales. So with me here, I have a piece of a shark skin. So this is preserved shark skin. So you can get a chance to check it out. And this is actually from a leopard shark, which is another native species that you can find here in San Diego. So with their scales, they actually grow in the direction of head to tail. So when I'm holding onto this shark skin, even though it's just a square, I can touch this shark skin and I can figure out which direction the shark's head was and which direction the tail was. Now, based off of touching this one, I would know that the shark head would be on this side and the tail would have been on this side. And the reason why I can tell that is because when I run my finger along those scales, they lay flat and I don't really feel anything. It feels very smooth. Then when I rub my finger up the opposite way, I'm lifting up each little edge of those individual scales, and then I can feel them being rough or bumpy. Now, sharks have very unique scales. They're not like a fish scale. So fish scales you can actually see a lot more in detail and you can kind of pick them up and check them out. See if we can get a nice closer view here for you guys. But with shark scales, they're called dermal denticles, which literally translates to skin teeth, because the scales that their bodies are made out of is going to be similar to what their teeth is made out of. So it's a stronger substance, and that is why it is so ragged and bumpy and rough on the edges. Now this scale, these chunks of skin in their scale that protect their bodies, help reduce their drag as well. By having those scales layered on top of each other like that, that helps reduce any part of drag where the water can actually get in between those scales. And that allows them to be able to stay hydrodynamic and swim through the water as quickly as possible. Now throughout the video, I'm going to be wiping off the edges of this container for you guys to get a chance to see. As this is a swell shark, it is a native species to our coast and our water is cold, so the water does condensate on this container. So I will do my best to keep wiping it, and then towards the end, I will take you guys into an up-close view of our shark as well. All right, so we talked about their fusiform body shape. We talked about their skin or their scales. One of the other things you might have noticed when we were looking at this particular scales and skin is actually the color pattern. When you think of a shark, what color is a shark generally? What color do you picture when you think of sharks in your head? Okay, gray and white. Yeah, exactly. Usually gray and white. Brown or yellow, awesome, cool. Variable, also very true, yeah. So sharks do vary a lot in their different color patterns, but in general, you can say that a shark is going to be darker colored on the top, whether that dark color be a brown, a yellow, or gray, or in this case, a spotted gray, like this leopard shark skin is, and then a lighter coloration on the belly side, like this one was. So let me bring it back up so we can check it out again. So we see the grayer colors here on that top part, and then it transitions into this more cream or whitish coloration pattern here. Now, and that is going to be called counter shading. This is a type of camouflage that you will find on all kinds of different animals that live in the ocean. Whether it be a fish, a whale, a dolphin, or a shark, counter shading is a very common type of coloration pattern where it helps animals hide in plain sight. So this darker coloration that you see on the top is actually what helps them to be able to blend in with the bottom of the ocean floor. So when something's swimming and it looks down at them, they blend in with that darker color. When they're up higher and something looks up at them, that lighter color helps them blend in with the lighter surface colors. Now, this results in variations of different colors, such as those grays and the whites, or the blue, because there are some sharks that have more of a blue coloration to them. And there are also lots of sharks that have different colors of browns and yellows, just like our small shark friend here too. Now, the color pattern, exactly which shade of yellow or brown or green, sharks aren't really green, but we'll go with it anyway. It all depends on what environment they're going to be living in the ocean. Because just like around on our Earth, when we walk around on the land, we find different habitat types. Under the ocean, we have lots of different habitat types as well. This swell shark here is this lovely brown and yellow pattern because they are actually going to be most commonly found around kelp forests. And kelp is usually going to be in that brown and green color. So having this variation helps them blend in with what's around them. All right, so we talked about colors, we talked about their shape, and we've talked about their skin. One of the most common things people always want to know about is their teeth. So I'm going to bring up this little jaw here first. Now, do you know if sharks all have the same type of teeth? Did you know that sharks have types of teeth? Now, sharks have lots of teeth, and it's going to vary on the type of teeth that they have based off of what they're going to be eating. So not every shark has the same style of tooth. I know we often think of sharks as going to all have the exact same big giant teeth like I have right here, where we see something like this and we're like, oh man, all sharks have these giant teeth. They're terrifying. They're all gonna eat that. Huge animals, but sharks actually have huge varieties in their teeth. So this first jaw that I'm showing you, let's see if I can get you guys a good angle to see the rows. So sharks actually have rows of teeth, and each species of shark is going to vary. So some shark species have 2 or 3 rows, while some species can have 7 to 10 rows. Average is going to be in that 5 to 7 range, but again, it does vary with each species. Now, what do you notice about these teeth that I'm trying my best to show you? Hopefully you can see really well. I'm trying to use my shirt to black it out so you can see it as best as possible. What do you notice about these teeth? What kind of shape are these? Okay, slightly curved back. Yeah, these ones do curve back a little bit. Good observation. Triangle shaped. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so these guys are actually triangular in shape, and they're actually pretty smooth on the sides, and they are just going to be really sharp at the top here. So if I were to just poke one like this, it's pretty sharp. It's not obviously going to hurt me like this because it's just a tooth. But if there was some pressure being pushed behind it, then this tooth would actually be able to cause like a pinprick. Or if we had full strength of the jaw, then it could definitely cause some serious damage. This type of tooth that's being highlighted in this jaw is actually called a fork-shaped tooth. A fork-shaped tooth is one of the most common types of teeth that we often encounter with the shark species as humans. We find out in our coastal shallow waters when we're surfing or swimming, scuba diving, things like that. Because fork-shaped teeth are going to be for sharks that are not super big and they eat smaller items. So they're going to eat things like fish, things that they can quickly grab onto with their teeth and then swallow whole. So they don't want to be eating something that needs to be ripped apart because their teeth aren't designed for that. Now I'm going to move the camera for a moment. It might get a little wonky for a second, but I promise it'll calm back down to give you an up-close view of one of our really cool shark jaws. And I'm actually going to switch the camera because I think it'll be easier on my end if I switch that camera angle. Give me 1 second. All right, so here we have one of our shark jaws as well. And this is actually that same style of tooth, but you can see it looks very different, right?
these teeth are much larger. So there's still going to be those long teeth, pointy on the ends, but the edges are actually going to be smooth. And this is actually going to be that same style of tooth. This is just from a much larger shark. Now this species of shark is actually going to be known as a mako shark. That's where we actually got this jaw from. As a benefit of being on the National Wildlife Refuge, we work very closely with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and when they find cool things on the shorelines, they actually give them to us to use as teaching tools. So this jaw was actually something that we got from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to use for things like this, to be able to highlight how awesome our native species actually are. All right. All right, bear with us as I refocus our camera again. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. Good. All right, perfect.
So yeah, we have our lovely shark jaw here. So that's another example of a fork-shaped tooth that can be super large. That shark, a mako shark, is obviously going to be eating much bigger fish than this jaw here because this one's much smaller. Now, I don't actually know which species of shark this jaw is from because it was given to us and it wasn't labeled properly. So we don't know, unfortunately. But I would guess, based off of its size and its shape and the teeth shape, that it's probably something like a leopard shark. So a large leopard shark or something very similar, but big because it does have a pretty wide jaw. Now, one of the other things that we always talk about with our shark friends is actually has to do with their reproduction. Do you guys know anything about sharks and how they give birth? Do they give birth or do they lay eggs? What do you think? Awesome. So I see those chats coming in and those are great answers. They can actually lay eggs, give live birth, or do a combination of the two. And then again, it does vary and depend on the species. So I have a horn shark egg case here. So this is an egg case from a horn shark, which is another species of shark that you can find off of our coastlines here in San Diego. And you can see it's dried up, obviously. Looks like a corkscrew, exactly. So this shape is actually going to be curved and going around in that spiral shape. So that way when these eggs get laid, there's chunks of stuff attached to them that will actually catch on the rocks. And then this corkscrew shape actually helps it get stuck in the sand and into those little crevices. So that way the mama horn shark will leave it and swim away, and inside of this egg case would have the nutrients that this shark needs in order to grow up big and strong. So inside it would have that egg yolk. They'd eat that egg yolk and they would have all the nutrients they need to grow up and be able to be a fully functioning shark all on their own. But not all sharks lay eggs because there are species that do give live birth. So it does just vary. So if they give live birth, it is called a viviparous. And if it's an egg, then they are oviparous. And if they do both, like some shark species do, where they have the egg inside, develops inside of that egg, then they're inside of the stomach for a while, and then they come out. That is going to be called ovoviviparous. All right, so we've gone over a lot of these different characteristics that all sharks have. Are you guys ready to actually meet our shark friend up close? All right, give me 1 second. I'll wipe the condensation off. Oh, and it looks like our shark friend is ready for us to All right, so bear with me, we're moving that camera again. All right, so I'm gonna bring him down here so you guys can see nice and up close our beautiful swell shark. And then let me grab our condensation wipe. All right, so as I said before, this is a swell shark species. Swell sharks are native to the San Diego coastline. And you can find them often in those coastal shallower waters around our kelp forests. And this is gonna occur up and down the entire coastline of California. And you can find them in different parts of Mexico as well. So very common along our Pacific coastlines. You can see here that this shark is not very big. This shark is probably about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet right now. Probably not even that much. But
it is a juvenile. So it will continue to grow, but it's not going to get much bigger than this. And that is because swell sharks usually max out at about 3.5 feet. Oh yes, this is a great view for you to be able to see its mouth. So we talked earlier about how they have teeth, and people often think that sharks are going to be these mindless eating machines, but that is not the case. You can see here, the swell shark's mouth is actually going to be a little bit more upward turned, and that's because these sharks spend a lot of time on the bottom of the ocean floor. And they'll swim around that bottom looking for things that they can eat, and then they will pull it into their mouth so that they can eat it. You guys are actually getting a great chance to see how this shark breathes as well, as they're pulling in water through their mouth and pushing it out through their gills. So if you saw those bubbles go across the screen, that's exactly what it was from. That is called ram breathing. So that's when they open their mouth and they pull it in and push it out through their gill slits. You may have noticed throughout the video that the shark has been resting pretty much the whole time, just resting on the bottom. And that's because shark species do not have to constantly move like we see in the movies. Movies love to tell us that sharks must be moving at all times in order to survive, and that's actually not true. There are some species that are unable to rest on the bottom. Not all species can do this, but a lot of the species that we have here in San Diego are actually able to rest on the bottom of the ocean floor. Now you can see that first pair of fins, those are actually called the pectoral fins, and those are what the shark uses to give itself its steering ability and lift. So moving from left to right, and then the lift to go up in the water column. Then behind that, you'll see we have the pelvic fins, and attached to the pelvic fins is also how you know whether or not your shark that you're looking at is a male or a female. Next to those pelvic fins, they have two appendages called claspers if they are male. This species is a female, as there are no additional appendages next to those. Then on top of their bodies, we have their dorsal fins. Do you see how many dorsal fins this shark has? Let's do an up top view so you can count those beautiful dorsal fins. Avoid that glare. Here we go. It's not working out very well, but I'm trying my best. All right, so we got some dorsal fins. We have one here and one right here as well. So they have two dorsal fins, and dorsal fins are actually going to help with stabilization. They help the sharks to be able to make sure they're swimming in a straight line. Now, earlier I told you about their fusiform body shape and talked about how they had to go through the water in a hydrodynamic shape. And while they are doing that, those dorsal fins actually help to stabilize them. And this actually makes it so when they are going through the water column, they're not spiraling. So I compared them to a football earlier. Have you ever thrown a football and gotten that perfect spiral? Well, that's what you want when you're aerodynamic, but if you're hydrodynamic, spinning around in a circle is not exactly the ideal way to swim through the ocean. So by having those dorsal fins, it helps them with stability so that they can actually swim in that straight line. Now, one of the other fins that they have that we haven't talked about yet is going to be the most important fin, and that is the tail fin. The tail fin, or the caudal fin, is actually what powerhouses the shark. So as the shark has been moving, being able to see the tail is always what's moving first, and that's what's going to push them through the water column. That tail is going to be the powerhouse of the shark. Now this one has a bottom dwelling tail, so the top lobe is much larger than the bottom lobe, but that's not going to be the case for all different types of sharks. They're going to have different shapes based off of their habitat that they often hang out in. As this is a bottom dwelling shark, that bottom dwelling ability is to be able to stay on the bottom without dragging and cutting through the sand, and that tail shape helps with that. So you can get a great view to see how that tail actually helps out. Now, my favorite fact about the swell sharks that I love to share with everybody is actually why they're called swell sharks. Swell sharks have this very unique ability where they can actually gulp in air or water. If they're at the surface, they can do it with air, but if they're underwater, they'll do it with the water. Well, they'll gulp in water and make their bodies puff up or swell. This makes them look bigger than what they truly are and helps them to be able to not get eaten by predators. Because if they look super big, then the predators think that they can't actually grab onto them or swallow them at all. So that swelling behavior actually helps them a lot. Can also help if they're in a crevice. Swelling up can make it harder for them to be removed from that area. All right, now I've seen everyone commenting and answering my questions, but I'm assuming my assistant Haley here has been on top of her questions and answers. But do we have any questions and answers that we need to go over?
We do have one question, and it's from something you said at the beginning. The question is, why did you mention whale sharks when discussing size range of sharks? As I understand, whale sharks are neither whales nor sharks, but are actually a fish. Is that true?
Well, yes and no. So all sharks are fish. Whales are not fish. Whales are mammals. They're in a completely different category. But a whale shark is not a whale. It is called a whale shark solely because of how big it is. It looked like a whale when they first saw it. But it is in fact a shark. Sharks are a part of the grouping of fish known as cartilaginous fish. I knew there was something I was going to talk about at the beginning and then totally forgot. Good thing you asked that question. I was going to tell you guys all about their skeletal system. Cartilaginous fish is the grouping that all sharks and rays, skates, guitarfish all belong in because their skeletal system is made out of cartilage instead of bone. So they do not have true bones, calcified bones like you and I do, in their body shape. And that is why they are still considered a fish, just a cartilaginous fish. So sharks are still a fish. Good.
That's the only question so far. So if you have any other questions, make sure you put them in our question and answer box.
Yeah, so questions, if they went in the chat box, we're not going to be able to answer those because those disappear too quickly. So if you had any questions, make sure to leave those in that question and answer box because I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. We love questions. It's also great just to give you guys an opportunity to check out our lovely native animals here in San Diego.
All right, we have another question. We got some coming in.
Oh, good. We love questions.
Yeah.
Send them in.
At what age do the swell sharks reach maturity?
That's a great question. So swell sharks are going to vary. So they are going to be, when they are born, they're not very big. And with sharks, a lot of the time, it's not necessarily an age thing that causes them to be considered mature. It's actually more of a size thing. So a lot of shark species, it actually depends on how big they get. Once they've reached a certain size, then they're going to be considered sexually mature. And this is going to cause a huge variation in that age. So some sharks are going to be ready to be sexually reproductive as young as 2 years old, 3 years old. Really just kind of depends on their lifespan. While other shark species like the great white, they actually aren't sexually reproductive until at least 15 to 20 years. So it does vary. As this is a much smaller species of shark, they are not going to live for quite as long as those bigger sharks. So they're going to reach sexual maturity pretty much quickly in comparison to that great white shark. So in just a few years.
Wonderful. We have another question. Has there been a change in migration patterns for our local sharks because of climate change?
Personally, I do not know the correct answer to you, but I would guess yes. But NOAA would be a great resource to find information on that. The National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, they keep track of all kinds of different changes in our water patterns, the temperature, things like our toxic algal bloom that we just recently had, and all that stuff. So they keep good records of that, and they pay attention to those things, and they do algorithms to figure out what those impacts are actually going to mean in the future. If you guys had gone out into the beach in the past few weeks, you may have witnessed that toxic algal bloom, and that was what caused that really nasty smell. That was from the algae dying and releasing off different things into the water and causing oxygen depleted zones, and that's what causes that smell. And this can actually have huge effects on our sharks. So I know it's almost time for our leopard shark season right now, where we usually get a few right around now. I was just out recently diving and I did not see any leopard sharks yet, but that doesn't mean it's abnormal. So it just kind of varies.
All right. Another question is, can we keep a shark as a pet? If so, what kind of shark would make a good pet?
Yeah, so there are a lot of species of sharks that people do have as pets. However, saltwater aquariums are a lot of work and they cost a lot of money and they're very hard to maintain. So as for which species are legally allowed, you'll have to verify with your state. Every state has different rules and regulations for which species are allowed. And generally, it's going to be the smaller species. I know a lot of celebrities and different places like dental offices have had those saltwater aquariums, and they'll often have species like the bamboo shark, which is actually a non-native species. It's from a tropical environment because most people like tropical species exhibits when they have oceanic ones, not so much our exhibits here, but you'll have to Google your state guidelines to figure that one out.
All right. How old is the shark that we are looking at?
This shark is about 3 years old. Yes, yeah, this one is about 3 years old. I believe it's really 2.5 at this moment, but about 3 years old.
You mentioned leopard shark season. When exactly is the leopard shark season?
Leopard sharks come through to our shorelines here in San Diego every year, starting at the beginning of June through about the end of September, which is a great opportunity for you to go out snorkeling or swimming in the shorelines and get a chance to see leopard sharks in action. Now, the reason why they're coming in is actually because it's their pupping season. So if you do go see them, you want to make sure you give them their space, and always, always, always keep your hands to yourself. You never want to reach out and touch wildlife. It's totally fine to swim with them and enjoy their views, but you want to make sure you are leaving them alone and giving them their space.
Okay, we have a question specifically for you. What is your favorite shark and why?
That's a great question. I don't know. Sharks are really interesting, but I'm not really sure what is my favorite species of shark. Yeah, I don't know. I've got nothing. I think they're really interesting, but I don't know who's my favorite shark.
All right, and our last question, how many teeth do sharks have? Is it really 455?
That's a great question. And no, it is not really 455. Just like we talked about with a lot of these answers for sharks in general, they are going to vary quite a bit, but sharks actually lose their teeth throughout their lifetime. So they don't have one set number of teeth because they are losing their teeth throughout their life. And that means that they can have anywhere to upwards of 45,000 teeth within their life. So they're constantly losing their teeth. When we were looking at this jaw earlier, you saw those rows of teeth that were in the back. Those back teeth are actually there. So when this front tooth falls out, those back teeth move forward and they take that spot. So it's not like us where we have baby teeth and we have adult teeth, and if we lose them, we have no more teeth. Their teeth are constantly moving forward and replacing that other one that got damaged, broken, fell out, whatever, because they need their teeth to survive. There are no dentists in the ocean, so this is what their life evolution has made them, so they can constantly replace those teeth and still be able to successfully hunt. So it can be anywhere up to 45,000 teeth in their lifetime. All right, well, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it back to Anna from the San Diego Guito River Valley Conservancy.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and a special very big thank you to Ashley and then also Haley, who was helping field some of those questions and keep an eye on all things technology. So thank you to the Living Coast Discovery team. I did see a quick question that asked about visiting Living Coast. Haley, if you're available, I think it'd be great to put the Living Coast website in the chat box to go check it out. I think they are reopening relatively soon. So they're a wonderful partner, and we are, again, very thankful to our funder, the City of Solana Beach, for helping us provide this webinar for you guys. And why don't we say thank you. I already see them coming in the chat. Thank you to Ashley and Haley for giving us such a wonderful program today. And I saw Haley went ahead and popped that web address in the chat box. So go ahead, check that out. We look forward to more webinars in the future. So stay connected with the San Diego River Valley Conservancy through our social media, our monthly e-newsletter, and our website as well. And last but not least, as we wrap up today, this session has been recorded. The video has been recorded, so we will be posting this on YouTube this upcoming week. So you are welcome to share it, and we encourage you to share it with your community in case they weren't able to hop on for whatever reason. Alrighty, friends, it was so good to spend Saturday morning with you. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Father's Day to those who are out there celebrating. And again, thank you to Living Coast. And again, my name is Anna, and I work for the San Diego River Valley Conservancy. Have a great Saturday, everyone.